Today is Monday, January 28th. And what we have right now is a great Money Monday. I am currently up over $1,100 at this moment. Absolutely great. As always, just want to make sure you guys see that right here. So right here is PCG. This has been my main play, $1,104. Absolutely awesome. Absolutely great. So I've been super excited with this play. Now, with this play, it's been really fun. It's definitely been a good one. And why has this play been so good? Well, one, it was extremely predictable, right? This was an extremely predictable play that has been able to lead us to some nice easy gains over and over and over again. So if we see easy gains and we see easy profit, nonstop, then obviously we can't really be upset with it. And I do want to show you my P&L, my actual entries and exits. I don't just want to show you my winnings. I want to be as transparent as possible. So here is my actual entries and exit. I was in at 1091 and 1097, which brought my cost basis towards around 1095. And then I got out at 1110 and 1115. Now the stock is up, all the way up to 1215 right now. And I was in on 6,000 shares. So how was this stock predictable? How was this stock, how were we able to say this was going to be our best play today? How did we know that? It simply enough comes down to just A, being in the market every day, and B, knowing your patterns. Now, what would be A, being in the market every day? How would that help me find PCG? Because PCG, the only reason it's on my radar today is because it was a top gainer on Thursday. That's the only reason it's on my radar today. Because the stock ran $7 on Thursday. If we look back at a 15-minute time frame right here, this stock went on Thursday from $7 and spiked all the way up to $14.30. Then we had Friday as our last trading day, and it didn't really do too much. And then today, I'm expecting a nice move and a possible nice. Well, this pattern would be a mid-candle breakout pattern. So A, how did I find PCG? This was a top gainer on Thursday. All you had to do was be here on Thursday. And then you know what? And then you'd be able to write down PCG as a top gaining pattern. Then on yesterday, Friday, or let's say, on Friday, that was 3 days ago now because today's Monday, we see what? That this stock had a small red day. Now, what does that small day represent right here? This small red day, things aren't really dumping. It's not really crashing. It's not really, falling apart. This red day right here is more of just a little bit of profit taking, right? It's a little bit of a chance for shorters to take over. This stock had great news on Thursday. This stock ripped $7. It's not going to be able to contain and hold a $7 spike. There's going to be some selling. There's going to be some profit taking. There's going to be areas where this play is not going to be able to just go straight up. And that's when we start seeing buyers return into this play today. And with that being said, what is that pattern called? Well, that pattern is called a mid-candle breakout pattern, right? And this is an easy example of a mid-candle breakout pattern where we get a nice big spike. Now, again, on a mid-candle breakout pattern, it needs to have a nice big spike. And I'm talking about $1, $2, $3, $5 rip. It needs to be the biggest top gainer. I get people ask me all the time, is this a mid-candle breakout pattern? And it's a stock that maybe moved 10 cents yesterday and now has a 5-cent pullback. No. Again, a mid-candle breakout pattern is from a previous top gainer, usually a very big runner and ripper. And what happens the next day is we get a nice little red candle. And we get this red candle down to the mid candle of that initial spike. And this red candle doesn't represent that the stock is going to dump trials. And this stock ripped very hard on positive phase 2 trials. But guess what? It just ripped very hard. We're going to have some selling. People are going to lock in profits. And the next day, the stock continues to move on up, right? HMNY goes from $1 to $17. Even though there's multiple red days, it falls to mid candle of the initial spike. And that's when it goes on a very big rip the next day. And then we have OPTT, which goes on a very big spike and a very big rip. And then we have this red candle that forms. And then what happens? The stock continues to move on up after, again, buyers, start returning. Sellers start locking it up. Shorters get scared, and the stock continues to climb, right? So we see this over and over again. Now, where would that pattern be? That pattern on PCG, it's a little hard to tell because the stock has been falling over and over. Most of the time, they happen from top gainers that are ripping from bottom up. This one, again, had a really big drop, and now, again, it ripped to $7. So you can see it's actually forming right here, where this stock has this nice green candle, has this red candle, and now, again, the stock is moving on up. Most people count this out right away because why? Because the stock had a gap down. Notice the stock closed at around 1170, and now again this morning it opened up at around 1080, 1075. But that doesn't mean anything because look at here on this play. This one had a gap down, right? This one closed and then had a gap down and then ripped on up. And this one, after this red candle, had a gap down and then it ripped on up. And then even after this one, had a gap down and then it ripped on up, right? And even after this one, has a gap down and it ripped on up. Most people completely miss the mid-candle breakout pattern because they just see a gap down in pre-market. They say, oh, it's gapping down. It's not worth our time anymore. When that's not the case at all, right? That's just the setup it's in. So if you're wondering, how did I get such a great entry? How did I this stock is all the way up at $12 right now. How was I in on this play at 1091, 1097? Because I understood the gap down didn't show weakness. The gap down is just part of the chart pattern. That's all it is. And now again, this stock, as we know, looking at our previous chart history patterns, or excuse me, all these other ones, we got a lot of room to run. DLT could rip. HMNY ripped. OPTT, this thing ripped. SCON ripped. This stock, SPU, spiked. This thing could definitely continue to move on up. We barely, scratched the surface right here. If this thing really starts moving, we could see back up to $14. Possible swing trade up to 17. Possible run up to the 200-day moving average. Up to, this thing could possibly go. So what's your next move, Dek? What are you thinking on this then? I want to get, a nice, I want to get a nice support line bounce play. And I've been saying that throughout the morning. And I think the best play is going to be when PCG hits the trend line and hits the support line, and that's going to be over here. Now, that's probably going to be during lunch hours if I had to take a guess. So, right now, PCG is doing its thing, obviously, and we can see that this trend line is continuing to move on up, and then the support line is going to move sideways, and what we'd want out of this play, what we want out of this is basically the stock to fall. That is where we want our bounce play, right here for the stock to move on up and possibly break out later on. So our best bounce play is going to be when the trend line and this bottom support, are going to hit. This right here is going to be the best bounce play going to be around. So, that's what I personally want for PCG. But this thing could be a multiple day swing. This thing could continue to climb on up. This could definitely continue to go on a nice run and rip. So definitely has, a lot of good potential. Definitely a lot of good potential to go on up. This stock was also this morning, www. Right here, once I bring up our morning newsletter. And if every single person here should be receiving our morning newsletter. If you guys are not receiving our morning newsletter, what do you guys know? Definitely email dekmartrades@gmail.com and sign up to our morning newsletter. That's why we have them. I'll also post right now a sign-up form. If you guys are not on it, I'll post that again in our chat. Our chat, as you guys know, on tradecaster.com on Dekmar Trades. And here it is right there. Boom. And you guys can sign up to our email list if you guys are not part of it. Now, again, this morning, our email, we sent out stocks to watch, PCG, on watch for a $10 bounce play, or again, the break of $11. This stock is setting itself up in a mid-candle breakout pattern. Has great potential to see buyers move back into it. This stock spiked $7 last Thursday. Can easily bring in volume again. Keep this stock on your watch list for a strong spike or a possible pop. Exactly perfect. So what am I looking? I'm looking for this play to come back down towards around 1150, bounce from there, and that's where I could look for a nice entry. Most likely it's going to be around lunch hours because, again, it's already around 11 o'clock right now. So we'll give it some time. We'll see what's going to be happening coming up in the near future. Awesome play so far today. What else is there, though? AWSM. AWSM, guys, this is what we like to call a masterpiece pattern. We have gone over this pattern, many times in the past, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I will do a little crash course on this play right here just because we have time and there's not really anything going too wild. But a masterpiece pattern is broken down into a few different areas. Number one, on a masterpiece pattern, we have a previous spike. Now, what does a previous spike represent? A previous spike represents what the stock can do in the past, right? If we're little kids and we're out playing soccer, or we're playing baseball, or we're playing pickup basketball, what do we want to do? And we have two captains who are about to pick teams, right? You say, oh, I want to pick Eddie. Why do you pick Eddie for your basketball team? Because last time we played, Eddie was dunking on kids. He was making every single shot. The next kid goes to pick, right? He goes, oh, I want Jonathan. Why Jonathan? Because Jonathan is an awesome basketball player as well, right? And why are we picking these kids on our team, let's say? Because they have a great past chart history pattern, or past record, right? We know that they can do amazing things. It's the same exact thing with stocks, guys. AWSM, has gone on a massive rip before in the past. So that's absolutely great. It's a low float stock. So this is the first thing we like to look for. Second thing we like to look for is the stock to fall and fade for some period of time, usually around 1 or 2 months, 2 or 3 months. And basically falling and fading, this is getting all buyers out of the play and letting sellers take complete control of it. And why would we want that? Because when we actually do start getting the ripping, there's no buyers in this play and all buyers can return, which could lead towards another big time spike. Number 3, we want to see the stock start basically getting a little flat line, which means there's no movement in the stock whatsoever at all. No buyers, no sellers. It's open for anything. And then we want to see number 4 right here, the stock start building higher lows. And once the stock starts building higher lows, that means the stock is starting to get buyers back in on this. And if buyers are starting to move back in on this, there could be a reason behind this, right? So if we want to look at our pattern right here, we have, again, number 1, big time spike shows that the stock can go on a big time rip. It's a low float play. Number 2, the stock is fading right here. The stock is fading. No buyers are in it. Sellers are in full control. Number 3, the stock is basically just flatline. Nothing's going on with it. No buyers, no sellers, as a very low RSI. RSI is the relative strength index. Anything under a 30 is oversold. Anything above a 70 is overbought. So that's where the stock can continue to move on up because it's so oversold right now. Then we have number 4 right here, which is a higher low pattern, which could ultimately lead to more buyers, which leads to number 5, which would be our breakout back to the upside. A lot of times when we see this, guys, we also see patterns start forming, such as squeeze patterns, where we have what? Where we'd have, let's say, a 50-day moving average coming across the top or bottom right here, and we'd have, let's say, like a 13 EMA coming across the bottom, squeezing the stock as the stock is building higher lows. And this possible squeeze could lead to a nice rip. Let's look at what this looks like. Hey, pretty close to our masterpiece pattern, isn't it? Right? Pretty close. What do we have? Big time spike. Nailed it. Right? Comes back on down. Sellers are in full control. Little period of nothing. Higher low. Nice squeeze pattern. Right when we break through that last area of resistance, we got blue skies ahead. So again, that's the masterpiece pattern on AWSM, which could lead towards a very nice rip, which could lead to a very nice pop, which could bring in a lot of big time potential. So, PCG, this is a stock definitely go on a nice rip in the near future, and this is a stock that could definitely take on off AWSM. So I want you guys to be aware of it. And if you're saying, why is the stock moving up right now? It doesn't have any sort of press release towards it or news. It's just a stock that has a lot of big time potential. So make sure you guys are ready for that in the future. So that's absolutely awesome. Last one we're keeping our eyes on as well is going to be TTNP. TTNP, the stock came out with a reverse stock split last week, right? Or on Friday. And, if it ever starts breaking through 150, we could possibly start seeing some good activity towards the stock. We could start seeing some good activity, right? Not really the hottest play in the world right now, but at the same time, anything that, starts moving through the stock could definitely start getting some nice ribbons, some nice running. So I definitely want you guys to be ready for TTNP if that stock ever starts, breaking on out. Other than that, it's been more of, it's a nice consistent day. It hasn't been anything, too wild, too insane, but it's been solid. We had some AWSF ripping. AVCO could possibly pop back on up. This was our number 1 top gainer this morning, where most of all our early birds made the money. Early bird pre-marketers, you guys know who you guys are. People who are willing to sacrifice sleep for profit. And what do we have right here? We have a beautiful rip from 430 all the way up towards around 780. So that's a beautiful climb and a beautiful rip right here from 430 all the way up to 780. And why did that happen? Just because of, again, a very hot press release. The stock AVCO came out with a press release this morning, January 28th, where it starts talking about where it's getting different developments, different studies in its oral cancer. So what we have right here, keywords to look for in hot press releases. We have this nice list of keywords, so you guys don't need to know all these different drugs. What you have is, again, cancer. It's a 3-star word. And when you have cancer, 3-star word, we automatically get a lot of hype towards these plays. Now, another big reason why we have a lot of big hype towards this play is past chart history pattern. Last week, AVCO went from $4, $3, all the way up to $13. That's a beautiful $10 rip. So a lot of people see news comes out on AVCO. They immediately say to themselves, didn't the stock go on a $10 spike last week? Yeah, okay, I want to buy it right now because it could maybe go on another $10 spike. And that's why we see in pre-market this thing rip from $4 all the way up to $7.80. Right? That's a beautiful rip and a beautiful climb. And the stock could possibly continue to move on up again. So, AVCO, I think that stock would get a lot of activity and a lot of hype whenever it broke through that 750 mark. So whenever this stock, let's say, broke through that 750 mark, That's where I think this one could possibly get a lot of big time ripping towards it. All right, so PCG, probably one of my favorite plays. PCG, when it broke 750 or 650, that's where this thing could possibly go on a nice rip and a nice run. And if it can't ever break 650, then it's not going to happen. But I think, again, it's still PCG, one of my top plays to watch. Also, AWSM is going to be a play I want to watch throughout the rest of the week. And AVCO is going to be right now still being a beast. If it can, I'll look for an entry. If AVCO breaks through 650, I'll look for an entry. And AWSM, that one could be probably in the next few days looking for a possible entry. Those are the top gaining stocks of the day. Those are the ones that I think you guys should be focusing on the most, and the ones that could definitely bring in some of the best potential. Absolutely awesome.